What's up, y'all? I want to do a reaction to. This is a request I got from one of my subscribers to do a reaction to the 16 Types ISTP video by Michael Pierce. If y'all don't know, this is a classic. Like if you're ISTP, this is like one of those videos that you should watch. Um, I remember when this first came out. Actually, I remember watching it when it first came out, and my comment is on there still from like years ago when it first came out. Um, Kind of funny because I don't remember commenting. Hold on, let me move this other way. Anyways, um, yeah, so let's check it out. All right, let's check it out. I don't remember nothing that happened on here, so this will be interesting. It's gonna jog my memory a little bit. Some good examples right there. Look, I don't know all these people though. So. Okay, yeah, these are some ones I've heard over the years. Hold
The
on, let me see that quote again.
ISTP was
Sorry, I did not see that. What did it say? It says, when you know the rhythm of any situation, you will strike naturally. Yeah, I see that's an ISTP kind of quote. That's kind of what we kind of want to go about things like that. And that's that guy. I remember hearing this guy's name. He's a samurai that everybody says like he's very philosophical, and they were saying that he was an ISTP. I remember they were talking about that some years back.
the ISTP was referred to as the crafter by David Keirsey, which some change to craftsman or in a few cases mechanic. In general, the stereotype in the Jungian community is of just that, a terse grease monkey who has mastered the practical aspects of their art. This image can be applied to a variety of professions, from pilot, businessman, soldier, martial arts competitor, or Jedi Knight. In every case, however, the ISTP is seen as terse, very focused,
I
often
remember that guy too. He was supposed to be a poker player that was real popular back then. Can't remember his name. That guy was real hot though. Everybody was saying he was an ISTP some years back. I don't really know much about poker, but I always used to say poker is one sport I think an ISTP would be good at. We probably make good chess players too. That's one sport. One thing I want to learn how to play was chess. My dad was an ESTP, and he used to play chess and stuff like that. Um, but I kind of wanted to learn how to play this from seeing them play when I was a kid, but then I kind of fell off of it. But I think I still want to learn. I think I'd be good at it. You know, this is a hobby to have. Like I like say like when I get older or something. Like let's say when you get to the point where you can't really do much, you can just sit in the house. That'd be something fun to do. I don't know. But anyway,
and no-nonsense, straightforward, and usually exceptional at whatever they do, handling physical or mental
yeah.
challenges or puzzles with applaudable skill, reflex, and ingenuity. I can't say I have an actual complaint for this stereotype, except that it is still limiting. The ISTP has tertiary introverted intuition which is not taken into sufficient account by this stereotype, but which plays a very important role in their personality, and I think a proper understanding of it could help blur the line between the 8 intuitive types and the 8 sensation types to just being 16 undivided types. As with all of these videos, I aim to describe the core of the ISTP profile, and the typical ISTP as an individual just as
And the way he goes about this, very NI like. Um, he was an NI dom. I think he said he was he was saying he was an INTJ, and then I think at one point he was saying he was an INFJ. I don't really know what he says now, but that's from what I heard. But the way he going about this, very NI like, you know, very much so. As far as his style, you know what I'm saying, which is kind of interesting.
capable or incapable of becoming a hero of the history books as any other personality. As always, let's break down what constitutes the ISTP functionally. They are a perceiving type, meaning that they prefer extroverted perceiving and introverted judging. This means that they base their judgment criteria on subjective inner information, while simply observing and drinking in objective information and experiences. You could say that they are more receptive towards the outside world and more aggressive towards their inner experience. Their preferred way
Yeah.
of doing this is through extroverted sensation and introverted thinking. Extroverted sensation is photographic. It has the most direct relationship with objects of all the functions, giving them the clearest and most realistic perspective. Introverted thinking is deductive. It's
Yeah, that's one thing as far as being realistic. I always felt like I had a more realistic view of things than most people growing up. Even as a kid, I think I was ahead of my time as far as thinking about things realistically. In some ways, I can't say in every way, but there's certain things where I would really think about the realistic details more than most people did. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting.
seeks to develop an internally consistent logical system by deducing all the necessary implications of a set of premises. Third, they are very similar to the ESTP. Both prefer extroverted sensation and introverted thinking. The ISTP, however, prefers introverted thinking more than extroverted sensation. Nevertheless, they are in
And that's interesting because I remember back when I was watching this, back when my SE wasn't quite as developed as it is now. I've been that's one of the first things I started trying to develop was my SE, and it's pretty well developed now. And now it kind of like you can some ways be look at me and you could mix me up as an ESTP in some cases a little bit, but you still can sense I'm a huge introvert. So I don't think really you would mix me up that often. But I've heard some people ask me if I think I'm an ESTP, and no, I'm not. I'm too familiar with NI and I'm too unfamiliar with FE, um, pretty much. I just have a very well developed SE because I put actually consciously put emphasis on it. I started to realize when I first got into it, like you need to put emphasis on that. But anyways,
some sense the same type, or at least sister types. I personally like to call STP types the warriors, because they combine a sharp and vivid perception of the world with rigorous ordering and logical deduction within their minds, building a logical system of the real world and thus helping them to smoothly navigate it like a soldier in battle. Of course, warrior is merely a nickname to help me remember the STP nature and does not mean that STPs are all Navy SEALs or that they have any interest in war at all.
well, yeah, there probably are a good number of STPs, even though there's way more STJs in the military and stuff like that. Um, I couldn't really see myself in the military. Actually, I was going to join, but then I was like, ain't for me. Um, but I could see as far as the mindset, yeah, we probably could do well. I think we're next after the SJs, especially STJs. STJs are like top, military people.
The ISTP then is a quote, warrior for whom their inner logical principles and deductions are more interesting and important than their objective observations. They are primarily concerned with developing and ordering their subjective understandings of things into consistent systems. The word I like to use to describe the ISTP nature is mastering. Like the INTP, the ISTP's dominant introverted thinking seeks to understand systems and the framework behind things. However, while the INTP is focused on the framework behind possibilities inspired from the object, the ISTP is focused on the framework of the object itself. This is
Yeah, pretty true. Um, like I do strive to master certain things. Let's put it like that. It's like I kind of want to master multiple things though. Of course, like I want to be able to say I've mastered multiple skills. Um, so that's pretty good way to describe it.
where the stereotype comes from, because the ISTP often likes to take things apart to see how they work, from clocks to computers to ideas. And
Another thing with that, taking things apart, that's one of the first things when I was a kid. I used to do that a lot. Um, I had this fascination because I remember being a kid and wondering, like, like the remote for a TV. I was always fascinated with how that worked, and I would like go get screwdrivers and I would unscrew it, open it up, and then look at the inside of it and then see the look at the circuit board. And I was always fascinated with it. And I was trying to figure out what all the little things mean and what the parts meant. And I was just fascinated with stuff like that growing up. Also being fascinated with, I remember when I first got my first like Connects and Lego kits. I remember being on that thing for about 4 hours. Matter of fact, probably long. I was on it for like a whole day, just building stuff out the book, stuff like that. Um, yeah, the Lego thing. So I love Legos growing up. I would build everything in the book, but the thing is, I wouldn't play with them for that long because I would build everything in the book, and then after that, I kind of would just be done with it. Um, so yeah, interesting.
history and anything that's an object. They examine with a sharp extroverted sensation lens, and then organize their impressions into a consistent logical system, while the INTP is more traditionally philosophical and abstracting. The ISTP is more grounded in the here and now, and therefore their examinations have the purpose of mastering things, of having a complete and down-to-earth understanding of how things work as possible, so that the ISTP.
I mean, that's how I approach Myers Briggs, really. Yeah, if you guys wonder like what's going on with me with that, that's pretty much how I approach it. Basically, what he just said right there. So that's real good. I do seek to have a like grounded understanding of things, stuff like that.
Can, as the entrance quote says, strike naturally. We tend to associate this attitude with the style of a cinematic Zen master or martial artist. As a mnemonic, I believe this is useful. The ISTP often quietly and intensely studies a thing, working it over in their mind or in their hands. Many ISTPs have the remarkable ability to enter new activities or hobbies and do reasonably well with relatively little practice compared to other beginners.
So that's a good one because you guys know, like with me getting into different hobbies, pretty much that's pretty much how it is. Usually. I would do real well even though I don't have a lot of experience in it. It's because like I would just delve into something and I know how to immerse myself in it very, very deeply. And it feel like it's like accelerating time. I would just learn it so certain aspects of it so quickly. Um, that's very accurate, very accurate. For example, music production, which you guys don't know, I've recently been getting into beat battles. Um, the ones I've been in have really been uploaded. I'm still new to it. Um, but if they upload one of the ones I'm in on their YouTube, I'll let you guys know. It's a whole production, everything. Like they got cameras, light. Well, it's kind of a dark room, but it's a huge production in front of a huge crowd. I'm doing battles in front of. Um, but yeah, yeah, I tend to do well when I first try things out. I tend to do pretty well for. I think all SPs kind of had that though. That's an extroverted sensing thing mainly.
Because their clear view of what is really going on and their nimble use of introverted thinking
Yeah,
help them see both the general system and individual quirks and repetitions of it.
yeah, it's like the TI and the SC. SC can see things super clearly, and my introverted thinking can come in and dissect a lot of information that I'm getting. That's the main reason why SC like ESFPs are good at that too. ESTP is good at it, learning things real quickly. ESFPs, the thing that amazes me about them though, they don't even have to really understand anything that's going on. They just fill it out. But they got FI too. They use the SC and FI to fill it out. And then I always found that to be interesting. Versus like a STP like myself, I would be able to understand things very quickly. And I would be able to tell you about it um, probably a little more than the SFP would. But they can also do the same. But that's a little small difference.
An activity's performance, and then recreate them and improve upon them. The ISTP's goal is to master their activities so thoroughly that they can perform them without any hesitancy, wavering, doubting, or fear. They want to
Yes.
strike naturally.
That's how I approach every sport. I always wanted to master it so that when I'm actually in the game, that's how this thoughts that was running through my head. Like actually in the game, I don't want to have to think about nothing. I want it to do all my thinking while I'm at practice. Because in the game, things are coming at you a little, maybe not quicker, but your adrenaline is up. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to have to be stuck with thinking. Um, there's actually like a buffer before I start to learn something in sports sometimes where I'm overthinking and I'm trying to bridge that gap between my TI and my SE. So yeah.
Smoothly and silently. They want to be so in tune with what they're doing that they don't even have to think. They
Yeah.
always know in the
That's my
moment
goal.
what needs to be done. This idea of fearlessness is very important to the ISTP. Their focus on objects puts them very much in the here and now, and the here and now doesn't wait for you to figure out what to do next. The IS
Like looking at these images he picked, these are really good images because I'm just looking at them and they make me feel alive in a way. You know what I'm saying? As far as like my SE, like yeah,
ISTP tries to understand the logic of their environment to the degree that they can naturally adapt to each and every new thing life throws at them, especially while in the thick of an activity. To do this, they must be fearless and unhesitant, absolutely sure of themselves and what they're doing.
yeah. So I had to like dissect, and that's where like if I'm by myself, I will spend that time thinking about all the things about whatever I'm trying to do. Let's say things that are confusing me about it, maybe things I don't understand. I will try to use my TI to understand it so that when I go back to do it again, maybe the next day, those things, because that's kind of what would stop me sometimes while I'm trying to do it at first. If it's something I haven't mastered yet, um, I will be thinking about trying to understand certain aspects of it that don't make sense to me while I'm doing it, and it would like interrupt. So I would go home and then I'll do that work at home or understand it. And then I go back to it and I don't have to think about it. So yeah, pretty much. That's how I approach it. Pretty accurate.
Life requires taking risks, and taking risks requires absolute self-confidence. For instance, imagine that you are an awesome adventurer, and you are being chased by 15 million bloodthirsty radioactive ants in the bowels of South
Indiana
America.
Jones, yeah.
And while running, you approach a gaping chasm about, say, 9 feet wide, which you think you could jump across to safety. If while running towards it you hesitate even in the slightest because of the staggering depth of the chasm, or for some uncertainty of whether you can really make it, or because your cell phone rings just as you're about to jump, or whatever, if you hesitate, your momentum and focus will instantly decrease, and you will probably falter just enough to miss the ledge and tumble to your death. But if you retain focus and have complete self-confidence in how you will go about jumping to maximize your stride and let nothing disturb you, then you'll probably make it. This is the attitude of the ISTP in a nutshell. They try to live so as to have no fear in this sense, to have self-confidence and mastery over themselves and their activities so that they never hesitate in the face of opportunity or obstacle. Introverted intuition plays an essential role in the ISTP's mastering nature. One of the Celebrity Types articles I've used extensively in my more recent videos helps explain this. I've put the reference in the description. While the extroverted intuitive introverted sensation axis of the INTP often manifests a broader, meticulous search for all the different facets of an idea, the introverted intuition extroverted sensation axis tends to focus intensely on one facet, the facet that yields the richest possibilities right now. In other words, the NESI axis is capricious and non-committal to any one perspective, but is resultantly well-traveled and multifaceted, while the
Mm.
NISE axis is devoted and intensely committed to the richest perspective right now, becoming an expert in a narrow field and at the exclusion of other perspectives, at least until the well runs dry and the NISE type is forced to move on.
Mm.
So while the INTP demonstrates a well-traveled but more capricious attitude to ideas, the ISTP demonstrates a narrow, intense, and committed attitude to ideas.
That makes me think about, if you guys remember me saying that Billy Carson is an INTP. That's kind of how his perspective is, pretty much. Well traveled, Like whatever he said, that describes it perfectly. Um, I'm a fan of him. He's pretty interesting. I've been watching a lot of Billy stuff.
The INTP often comes across as more clever, traditionally academic, and broadly read, but the
Yeah,
ISTP comes across as focused, impossible to distract, minimalist, and terse, sharp, cold, and hard as steel. There
basically, pretty much. I'm very stoic. Um, yeah, I'm pretty stoic. I'm less stoic around people I know real well. Um, but for the most part, I'm stoic. Yeah,
is a fascinating comparison to be made between the ISTP and the INFJ because they share the same unrepressed introverted process, introverted thinking, and introverted intuition. In the INFJ, the focus is on introverted intuition, contemplating inner possibilities and exploring their boundless associations. In other words, passively observing their intuition. Their introverted thinking is used more in the service of introverted intuition to organize it and make it more manageable. The ISTP is the reverse. The contemplation of introverted intuition is in the service of introverted thinking, contemplating associations and possibilities to help them make a more consistent logical system. So in comparison, the
yeah.
INFJ is a more passive observer, while the I
I call that the way I refer to that is I call that trimming off the fat. Like I try to go through and trim off the fat of an idea, if that makes sense. Sort of a metaphor, but whatever.
ISTP is a sharp and active constructionist or judger. Introverted intuition manifests in the ISTP as an intense and single-minded focus. Extroverted sensation photographs the object directly, while introverted intuition delves deep into the associations the object arouses in their subject.
Yeah,
Together, in the service of introverted thinking, the ISTP can make a piercing and exceptional analysis of things. This intensity has several other interesting effects. First, the ISTP is notoriously terse, as I've mentioned before. Introverted intuition tends to have a condensing motion, in that it tries to synthesize, collapse, and summarize information with just a few elegant strokes. Meanwhile, introverted thinking, while not demonstrating the same collapsing motion, still tries to get at the abstract framework of a thing. Together, the ISTP is especially reducing, always seeking to simplify ideas and get at the barest essentials. The
maybe
INTP
I don't know. Like literally, when I talk about certain things in my Briggs, that's literally what I'm trying to do most of the time. I try to keep it, in a way, I try to keep it simple, but I do go. The way that I get it to be simpler, just so it's like you're not wasting your energy on certain. This to make it easier for the common person to understand. But I do try to simplify things. I take complex ideas and then I try to simplify them. That's how I go about things. Yep.
tries to get at the bare essentials too, but it is not direct or intense in its approach like the ISTP is. The INTP has a broader, curious, exploratory motion to it, while the ISTP has a more devoted, obsessive, diving motion to it, and it shows in the principles they develop. They try to express as much as possible in only a few words. This also
Yes.
applies to the systems they create, which are meant to be simple, condensed, and as pure as possible. They
Yeah. Pretty much. I don't like to use a lot of too much. I don't like to use. I don't like to be too. What I want to say. I don't like to overcomplicate things when I speak. Um, if it's not necessary. Now, if it is complicated, then of course I will. Uh, it will sound complicated when I explain it. But if there's a way that I can make it simpler, I will do that. You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of how I go about it.
like to do things in swift, definitive strokes, bereft of fluff and internal inefficiency. Vladimir Putin, whatever you may think of him, put it this way in the context of fighting. You must hit first, and hit so hard that your opponent will not rise to his feet. In other words, if that first stroke is not precise and potent enough, then the effort quickly becomes sloppy and much less efficient.
Mm.
This leads into another notorious aspect of the ISTP, their repressed extroverted feeling. The ISTP's preciseness, directness, and stripping away of inefficiency include stripping off any sugarcoating in their language and expression, any fluff or appearances
Yeah.
such as social tact and graces. The
Yeah. Like you hear me say stuff like involving that. Some in some cases I do get a little annoyed too when people sugarcoat too much. Um, Now you don't have to be rude about it. Like you don't have to be disrespectful, but sometimes I'm like, man, just say what you want to say. Like sometimes I ask people too when people beat around the bush too much. I will ask them directly, like, "What are you trying to say?" But I won't do it in a rude way. But I'll just kind of be like, "So what are you trying to say? You mean this or you mean that?" You know what I'm saying? Now there is some times when I do that, and sometimes people take it the wrong way. Like I wasn't even trying to be rude. Sometimes they'll take it the wrong way. Think I'm just because some people are just so indirect and they just say a bunch of just nothing um, in a way where it like waste time. It kind of wastes time. Like if it's something I need to do now or something, or I wouldn't even say that. It's just sometimes people are just not used to being somebody being direct with them. So they sometimes get a little bit. They just feel a little uneasy about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm real direct. You know what I mean?
TP can and often is very blunt and direct, cutting straight to the problem because that's how they work. This can be admirable and a great advantage, but if undeveloped, it can quickly become a disadvantage too. The ISTP's piercing thoughts can sometimes drill through other people without realizing the extent of the damage.
I literally just said that too. I just said that. He's saying the exact same thing I was saying.
In other words, their intensity can sometimes unintentionally offend and hurt others.
Yeah,
A
that's what
great
I just said.
example is Steve Jobs, who has become infamous for an abrasively direct presentation. As he put it, I say when something sucks rather than sugarcoat it. In other words,
If you guys don't know, like what I was saying about when I was making the INFJ videos, some people got offended by it, but man, I had to say something. Well, nobody saying nothing about it, so it's like I got to say something. Nobody else is gonna say nothing, so I'll say something then. Yeah, sometimes I don't care though, man, because like it's like, man, I shouldn't like. Sometimes it's just like, bro, get over it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but other times, like, it is important not to be so harsh and blunt.
you might make him a design for the next Big Apple product, and during his review, he points out that he likes this idea, and you should develop them more, but the rest of it, frankly, just kind of sucks. It's too clunky, and this and that, and won't work because of this. As an ISTP, it's likely this bluntness is not intended to be derogatory, but to be honest, and people can usually sense that, but it doesn't make them feel any better, and that's part of the problem.
Boy,
Directness and
especially dealing with people, man. There's some crazy people out here. You talking to a crazy delusional person, and you come with the facts like that, man. It can be dangerous. You never know, man. Some they might come after you or something, man. So that's one thing I understand as well. I can handle myself, though. Let's put it like that. But as far as like somebody could pull a weapon out of, well, I don't know. Some people are crazy in this world, man. Um, but yeah,
bluntness can be very good and are often seen as qualifications for honesty, but this is only assuming that the ISTP's idea is, in fact, the best idea. Because if it is not, then the ISTP's piercing manner is no longer an admirable stand for truth and justness, but a misapplied barb requiring similar sharpness to counter. The ISTP is like a serpent covered in sharp, hard scales, and if unchecked, what it would consider normal or natural might seriously injure or lacerate those without such scales around them. So, in summary, the ISTP is mastering, figuring out the logical systems of reality so that they can perform tasks with utmost assurance and naturalness, giving them a characteristic fearlessness and cool head even in desperate situations. They are intensely focused, and their tertiary introverted
yeah. Speaking of that, they used to say that we were the best under pressure. Um, Pretty much, yeah. I do work better under pressure. I can be pretty calm under pressure in certain. Yeah, I can be pretty. Yeah, pretty calm. Now,
Intuition seeks to collapse ideas into simple, elegant principles, making them terse with language and presentation. Finally, their repressed extroverted feeling results in a blunt and direct nature, cutting to the chase and sometimes unintentionally hurting other people in the process. The best list of example ISTPs can be found at celebritytypes.com and includes Miyamoto.
and add to that, it's not celebrity types anymore. Now it's RDR Labs, and that's the website I told you guys about where I told them they were wrong about Eminem, and they ended up actually changing it after I told them. I don't know if it was directly because of me, but when I told them, some other people saw my video and they went and told them too. So um, they might have saw the video too and then decided, okay, he's right, changed them. But it's funny because back before that, nobody was saying that he was not. Well, there was more people saying he was an ISFP than ISTP, but there was still some people saying ISTP. Now everybody says he's ISTP now. But I pointed it out, saying with my bluntness and my directness, that was very useful in that situation. I was just being real blunt with them, and I was telling them like, man, this is some BS. I was a little annoyed too about how the reasons they used reasons were straight up just BS, and I told them directly. Um, so yeah,
Musashi, Erwin Rommel, Steve Jobs, Jack Dorsey, Diogenes of Sinope, Dalai Lama XIV, Vladimir Putin, Miles Davis, Stanley Kubrick, Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford, Christian Bale, Daniel Craig, Scarlett Johansson, Ellen Page, Phil Ivey, and Bruce Lee. Thanks for watching, and for all the
okay, that list at the end was decent. That was probably before they changed Eminem to ISTP. I don't. So some of those people I'm not too aware of, like Ellen Page. I don't really know what she is. She might be, might not be. Um, but as far as that list goes, it was pretty decent list. None that really stuck out to me that seemed like really bad or wrong. But that's old. That's how the list used to look before they changed Eminem. But anyways, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.